IPSec needs to do all the same things that TLS did, just covering the full packet instead of only the message part of the packet. To do that, it uses the same techniques as TLS. It uses a negotiated cipher suite. There's usually some certificate involved with a public key, like when I connect to the university's VPN. There is a certificate built into the VPN access that I installed. Meanwhile, I have either a password or some similar certificate login on the client side. IPSec creates session keys to use for actually encrypting the packets instead of just using this public key every time. And it involves MACs for integrity checking. We're not going to go into those details because they're all really very similar to TLS. But TLS was built on top of TCP, which had this extra piece that we don't have here, which is a connection. For the two ends of a TLS connection, the TCP connection could be used to represent the identity of that connection. IPSec, in contrast, is working at the network layer, where we do not have the notion of a connection. We only have individual packets. And so IPSec has to throw in an extra ingredient relative to TLS, which is a 32-bit Security Parameter Index, or SPI. And this is just a fancy word for a representation of the connection between two ends of an IPSec communication to make it look like a connection. This SPI is used in combination with the source and destination addresses, which we do have to represent the connection overall. Just a few more details on an SPI. It turns out to represent only one direction of a connection, unlike the bidirectional representation of a TCP connection. And so a VPN connection over IPSec is actually going to involve two SPIs, one from the client to the server and another for the server back to the client. The protocol that you use to set up a connection is represented by an SPI. That has its own name, and that's the Internet Key Exchange. You might recognize IKE because we referred to it previously when we had an example of Diffie-Hellman and public information that is needed for the Diffie-Hellman protocol. So we showed a 248-bit key that could be used for our Diffie-Hellman, and that was taken from the IKE spec. IPSec does not have the same sort of setup teardown as a TCP connection. Instead, it makes a different trade-off here. So SPIs time out when they're unused, and the protocol instead has a keep alive message that makes sure that some connection that you're still using doesn't go away.